all, a very good morning on behalf of Trademark Stores. We are glad that you have joined us today, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Two quick announcements. First, if you have already bought the ticket and you haven't checked in, please come and
the language between stop. I would be happy to chat with you and get to know you. You do not need to fake how old we are. Because in case you didn't know, Princeton and Yale, they use chemicals to make their buildings look older. We don't do that here, because here, if a building looks old, like this one right here, it's because it's very old. It was probably built in the 17th century. And if a building looks ugly, like that one right there, it's because it's new. So, and it was probably built in the 70s. There's a lot of ugly buildings built in the 70s here. You're gonna see them later in the tour. Well, this is the first stop, and we're gonna first pay attention to that gate right there. This is Johnson's Gate, and this one. It was built in the 17th century by the same architectural firm that built Boston Public Library. I don't know if you've visited it already, but it's very pretty. Freshmen. So the first day of classes, there's a tradition where they put welcome banners over that gate, so you enter for the first time with your family when you enter campus as a Harvard student officially. And the second time you can cross that gate is as a graduating senior. So in graduating ceremony, all the graduating seniors go through that gate as they're leaving the campus for the last time as Harvard students. During the beginning of the 17th, the end of the 17th century, it was housed for the Army of the 13 Colonies. The Army of the 13 Colonies lived there. When the War of the American Independence finished, this building became student dorms for first-year students. Nowadays, the top floor are still student dorms, but the first two floors are now the offices for the Harvard president. So every year, the students that live on the top floor change, and they say that the students that get to live there are only 16 spaces. They say that students that get to live there are handpicked by the president. The most expensive one per square meter is that gray shack right there. So they submitted a first set of blueprints asking permission for this project. They were denied. The permission was denied. They submitted a second set of blueprints. They were also rejected. They had to submit 87 set of blueprints before they got permission to build this gray shack. So it ended up costing around $60,000 in the 90s. Oldest buildings that we have here on campus. Now that we're like in this space, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Harvard history and American history. As I previously said, Harvard was founded in 1636. It was a few years after the first pilgrims arrived here to the Americas. So we like to say that Harvard grew up along with the American nation, because there's a lot of parallelisms between the American history and Harvard history. When this happened, the students here that were current students studying in Harvard classrooms rioted because they did not want that student to attend. Unfortunately, that student died of tuberculosis before the start of the classes, so he never got to graduate, not even attend. 27 years passed before the second black student was admitted. He finally attended Harvard and graduated. He later became the dean of Howard College, a historically black college here in Cambridge, like half an hour away in that direction. And nowadays they always beat us at football. When we're finally allowed into some classes and into some buildings. And just as women proved to be good enough for the workforce in the US, women also proved to be good enough for the classrooms here at Harvard. So after the World War, what we call the Great Integration started, which is a process in which little by little, women were accepted into the Harvard life. The Great Integration finished. The John Harvard statue. We're gonna first talk about it, and then I'll give you time to take photos. says John Harvard, founder, 1638, I'm gonna tell you which are the three lies. Harvard was not founded in 16, and the third lie is that man right there, because he is not John Harvard. We actually have no idea of how John Harvard burned all of his collections, so we lost everything, except for one book that survived. But we lost all his pictures. So when Harvard wanted to build this statue to commemorate their first founder, they faced this Harvard president. He was a Protestant priest and had extremist religious views. So he liked to violently punish the students who commit undisciplinary actions. He liked to whip them and exert other kind of take one of his descendants as the model for the statue. That way they would be commemorating Lehman Hurt's face, but not his name. So that's who that man is. If you pay attention now to his food, you'll see that it's golden. And that's because tourists like to rub it for a good luck. So now if you want to take photos with the statue, I'll wait a couple of minutes and then we'll continue with the tour. Remember that I told you that if a building looks ugly, it's because of you. Well, this building was built in the 70s. That's why it looks like that. I take classes in the basement. My math classes are in the basement. So as the year progresses, I go up and down. Every student that graduated at Harvard had to know a little bit about everything and a lot about something. That a lot about something is your concentration. In my case would be philosophy and math. Buildings here on campus. We have two buildings here. The first one, the one that looks like a church, is called Memorial Hall. And then the one that's coming out from the church-like building is called Annenberg Hall. We're gonna first talk about Memorial Hall. Memorial Hall is a building that was built to commemorate the life of Harvard students that fought and died during the American Civil War. For those who don't know, even though this building looks like a church, it was never built with any kind of religious intent. So individuals, instead of having saints that fought the dynasty, and the reason for this is that they want the incoming class to bond. They want the incoming class to socialize. They want us to make the task of making friends easier. So they force us to all eat in the same space every day. So you will end up seeing the same people every day and end up becoming friends. Because all the class is so big that we do not fit in any Harvard building. For $3.5 million donation. The first one was that not a single stone could ever be touched after the library was finished. So the library right now has never been modified, and it was a library that Eleanor Widener approved. The second condition was that the exact replica of her son's studio had to be built inside of that library, and that studio the US, lived here during his first year at Harvard. Also, a Nobel Prize winner, Neil deGrasse Tyson, lived here during his time at Harvard. You can still get signs to live in their old, and you can fully appreciate it from the side. But here at Harvard, we call it the Hilton of Harvard because the rooms inside of this building are the prettiest ones. Here was built just above the train. So when the train goes under Wigglesworth actually wiggles. And Bill Gates lived here during his first year at Harvard. Then he dropped out of Harvard to build Microsoft and become a billionaire. But once he was famous and rich, he decided to come back to get his degree. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about one of these people, but for instance, I'm gonna tell you that in that building right there, that is called Strauss Hall. That's another student dorm. First we have Lowell House. Is that house right there? I talked to you about President Lowell earlier in the tour, and this is the house that was built in his name. We have a couple of Academy Award winners that live there. Natalie Portman and Matt Damon lived there during his upperclassmen years at Harvard. We have Winthrop House. We call it the House of the Presidents because John F. Kennedy lived here during his upperclassmen years at Harvard. And all the Kennedys that followed him at Harvard were also randomly assigned to that house. So all the Kennedys have lived in Winthrop House. Then the house in the middle, it's called Elliott House, the one with the watchtower. They don't have a lot of famous people that live there, but they have a beautiful courtyard where they throw a very special formal party every spring. And we also have less regular teams like fencing teams, rowing teams, squash teams, golf teams, and our final club. We cannot even set foot in one of the buildings of the final club because we're gonna get blacklisted. But then, in your second year, the presidents of the final club are going to extend an invitation to all those students that they want to belong to the final club. So how this works is, in your sophomore formal dinner, you and all of the possible members of the final club come to this dinner, and then the final club members, they judge how you dress, how you socialize, how you speak, how you are. And if they like you, you make it to the second round. And how do they tell you that you made it to the second round? They slide another letter into your door to invite you to the next event of the contest. If you do not make it to the second round, if they don't like you enough, you will never hear back from them again. And there's like five rounds of this, and in the final one, all the final club members reunite and vote on which they like and which they don't like to join the final club. If you pass the final round, you get to belong to a final club, and then you belong to the same final club further next to the river houses, and that's called the Fly. They have very weird names: the Fly, the Fox, the Speed, the Brazilian. There's Sab. They have weird names, and only around 17% of students, of college students, get to belong to a final club. And a particularity about final club is that once you become a member, once they accept you, you have to pay a membership. And this membership is around $6,000 per semester.
What?
So it's why you plan at Harvard. That is something that mandatorily every student has to get in order to study here. Is $100,000 per year, 100K a year. This number changes every year. It always goes up. It never goes down. Last year it was 90K. This year is 100K. But Harvard has a great financial aid program. They say that they are committed to get to campus every student that they accept. So how this works is, once you receive your acceptance, Harvard asks for all of your financial documents. Attend Harvard, but I still have to work to pay for my books, flights back home, and personal expenses because here Cambridge is very expensive. So low-income students always face a lot of difficulties related to the students that are not on full financial aid. And then the percentage in between, they do not pay full tuition, but they pay some percentage of the tuition. So there's students that at Harvard just assign them to pay 50%, 90% of the tuition, or 5% of the tuition. So yeah, every student pays different amounts. And I I hope you really enjoyed the tour. If you did, please give it 5 stars on whichever site you booked it. If you think there's room for improvement, you can talk to my manager.